My video for March the 18th, 2019 is video number 3028. The title is Assimilating into a New Culture. In this era, there seems to be a lot of people moving from one country or part of the world to another. In the past, for example, most of those who moved to the United States learned English, no matter what the language was where they came from, whether Europe, Africa, Asia, or Latin America. This, being St. Patrick's Day, is part of what triggered this topic for me. The Irish were greatly abused by the Brits, yet when they immigrated to the US, they learned and spoke English. That was the way of it for most of the history of this nation. It's no longer that way. Nowadays, we have people flooding into the US from all corners of the world. Many do not learn English, or many do learn English, yet many do not, I'm sorry. There are communities where there is a massive influx of foreigners where they make no attempt to learn English. I would not even see this as a problem except for the fact that failure to assimilate creates artificial boundaries in communities. More and more, it's becoming an us versus them problem. Yes, more separation. Of course, it's more than simply language. It often becomes a culture clash. Can this be stopped? Can we at least live together in peace? Well, the agenda of some seems to be the opposite. Some want conflict. They thrive on it because it serves their purpose, division and rivalry. To me, this is very sad, even insane. There were a couple of things that triggered this for me. One, the fact that I'm recording it on St. Patrick's Day, and I have a wonderful Irish friend who is my dance partner on occasion, and I certainly appreciate getting out and dancing, and I want to try to increase that more and more. In fact, the reason I recorded my video or uploaded my previous video, the one that's actually on St. Patrick's Day, a little bit late, is because I was out last night listening to music, and I didn't get home until a little bit later, and I actually slept better last night than usual. I didn't wake up by 4 a.m. like I almost always do, even at 3 a.m. many times and earlier. But this time I slept until it was just about 5 a.m. when I finally woke up and looked at the clock, and I thought, oh my goodness, I got to get out and upload my video. Anyway, it is St. Patrick's Day here as I'm recording this, and I had a walk in the park yesterday, as I do every day, and a man stopped me and he says, you're going to see a mother and father with 3 little kids coming, and I've talked to them and tell them that, and he gave me his name, I don't remember at this moment, tell them that I said hi to them and wanted you to say hi to them. And when I get to these people, they're an Islamic couple with 3 wonderful little kids. You know, maybe the oldest one might have been school age, but I think the other 2 were not quite school age yet. And the woman, of course, was being a Muslim woman, you could see her eyes, and she had a long dress on that went down to almost to the ground, and everything was covered except for this much, and her hands. And that's a cultural thing, and I don't have a problem with it, but they spoke English. They spoke English. I have been in communities right here in Florida, in fact, where all you hear is people talking other languages, and the communication is not in English. And I'm a a linguistic illiterate. I mean, I can say thank you and certain words I know in various languages, but as I've said in other videos, I still am pretty much impoverished when it comes to language. I only fluently speak English, and I know a little bit of Spanish, a little bit more Spanish than any other language, but even that, I could not carry on a conversation in Spanish. I could only carry on a conversation in English, at the most greetings in Spanish, and some other words. I have taken languages, as I've said in previous videos. I have had an agenda for my life, and that agenda is peace on earth. That agenda is kingdom of heaven. That agenda is to get beyond the things that divide us, to expose the walls and the barriers, and to try to find a solution to the problems. But we are so overwhelmed because there does seem to be a different agenda at play, one that still thrives on creating wars and conflicts. And of course, there's money involved in this because it serves the purpose of those that have a dark agenda to keep people at each other's throats, so to speak, attacking one another, not trusting each other. And it was wonderful. You know, these little kids were warm. You know, when I say warm, I mean they weren't as friendly as other kids, some other kids that I've seen, but they were not unfriendly either. The big smiles on their faces, and you know, we got to get to where we love one another. We've got to get to where we listen, and learning language is part of listening. If I moved to Latin America, for example, I would learn Spanish, or if I was moving to Brazil, I would learn Portuguese. I mean, it would be an effort for me at this age, I'm sure, but I would make that effort because I want to assimilate into whatever place that I am to the best of my ability. That doesn't mean I want to let go of all my standards, and I still want to maintain certain aspects of my personality and my preferences. That's natural, I would think. But so many times I'm seeing no assimilation or attempt to assimilate at all, and there remains this rivalry between factions in the same community. There's a community up in Michigan that if you went there, you would think you were in an Arabic country because the churches have been replaced with mosques, and everybody is speaking in Arabic. They're not speaking in, or whatever, they're not speaking English. And this is becoming more and more of a problem in a country like the United States because of two agendas at play. There are those of us that want peace. There are those of us that want to build bridges. There are those of us that want to connect with others. But there are also those that don't want that. And this is the challenge that I have, continuing to have, that trying to get people to listen to each other requires, of course, that we're able to communicate on as level a playing field as possible, not talking down to somebody. And some suggest that we're going to get to the place where we don't need language, where we can just communicate by our thoughts. We can communicate intention. And that's a good thing. If it could become the norm, we could possibly be moving toward more peace and more understanding with each other. Yet, that doesn't seem to be happening at a sufficient rate quickly enough that it would satisfy me, because I want to be at peace with the world, and I would like to be in harmony with all of my brothers and sisters wherever they come from and whatever language they speak. Thank you, folks, for listening, and namaste.